Hello to anyone watching this. Hope you're having a nice day. What I'm going to be doing right here is a little fuel runtime test between the Westinghouse WH2000i inverter generator and the Pulsar PG2000is. Very similar units. Westinghouse is rated a little higher, 1800 running watts, as opposed to the Pulsar's 1600. But they've got similar engine sizes. I think the Westinghouse is 79cc, the Pulsar is 80cc. I treat the Westinghouse like a 1600 watt running generator anyway. So I was curious what their run times would be at a quarter load and half a load. Since most of the time I would expect to run it around that, maybe up to 1000 watts continuous, but a quarter and a half load I was more interested to see what their run times are. Now, the Westinghouse has more hours than the Pulsar at around 20-ish, I think a little less, and the Pulsar just has a little under an hour and a half. Now, it has been broken in, but it was a truncated break-in run. You can look at Amazon.com, where a guy put a break-in procedure, and I just took that and truncated it and changed out the oil. They're both running, let's see, what are they? Shell Rotella 5W40 synthetic. And what else? Yeah, that's pretty much it. What I did beforehand is put a little bit of fuel into each generator and run it until they stalled out, because there's always a little bit of fuel left in the tank. I thought this would make it a more equal test. Now, what I have to run the quarter and half load is a small heater and then just an incandescent light bulb to bring it up around 400 watts and then around 800 watts. That's pretty much it. I'm going to pause the video and put 4 ounces of fuel into the Westinghouse. Like I said, this is going to be a short test. I'll just see how long it runs for in 4 ounces and then do the math and see what kind of runtime I'd get on that, and then do the same for the half load test. Yeah. Alright, be right back. Just to give a little more detail as I'm jumping around, pausing the video, I'll be using that beautiful looking desk lamp. I can't remember what wattage the bulb is in there, but that with the small Vornado heater on the right, on low, I think it's just shy of 400 watts, but I've got my kilowatt hooked up to it. And maybe I'll lift up the phone, bring it over, and see what it's running. Although there will definitely be an audio warning on that. I'll pause it after that until the test is done. I've got another phone that I'll move this one over, and it's got a timer on it, so it'll show how much time has lapsed. It's not the best system. Best thing would be just to leave my phone running, but I don't know how much space is actually going to take up. The file is going to get pretty big, so I'm just going to pause it in between. Also, I'm going to be using this to measure the fuel. It's just a Rubbermaid container. It's got a 4 ounce mark on it. On level ground, it looks to be about 4 ounces, so that's what I'm going for. Be right back. There we go. 17 minutes and, well, I'll say essentially 30 seconds. That was quarter load, which looked to be stabilized around 406, 407 watts with eco mode on, efficiency mode. Should have mentioned that. Yeah, now I'm going to add 4 more ounces of fuel to the system, and then turn the little Vornado up to high, and add in another light bulb, and it's somewhere around 800 watts. I thought this was a little bit below 400, so this might be a little higher, but it's close enough, and we'll see we'll go from there. The counter, the stopwatch on the other phone on the left side, I'd originally thought to do this with both generators at once, but finding enough devices to put a load on it to make it pretty equal was difficult. It would have been less time consuming to do both of them at the same time, but that's okay. So the top number will be for quarter load, and the bottom number on the left will be for half a load. So yeah, I'll be right back. Sorry again for all the jump cuts. I just wanted to show that the second light bulb on the right there I'm adding to it. Of course, the little Vornado heater is still, or is it Vornado? Yeah, I mispronounce everything. That's all right. The little heater will be turned up to high, and I'll once again show the kilowatt. I'll cover the mic up with my finger. Hopefully that muffles the sound a bit. I won't know until I play back the video, so apologies if that's really loud. Be right back. I'll start it up, and I'll bring the camera over and see the kilowatt. Okay, well that's odd. It almost makes me want to test the quarter load again. It did take me a lot more pulls to get started for the quarter load test, and that was one of the issues I thought I might have with only putting 4 ounces of fuel in. It was difficult to start, so maybe I just kept dumping fuel into the system and wasting every time I pulled the cord. Still an interesting result. You notice at the end of the test only one of the lights was lit up. Probably noticed that when I showed the kilowatt beforehand. But I tested them before. Apparently my readings were off, but the kilowatt settled at 789 watts throughout the entire run. In any case, I'm gonna move the Westinghouse out of the way and set up the Pulsar and start again. Alright, be right back. Just wanted to show I've switched the Westinghouse for the Pulsar. It's all hooked up, fueled, 4 ounces, give or take a minute amount. I'm curious to see if I have the same trouble starting this and what kind of runtime it gives me. I may just do the Westinghouse test over again, hoping that I can start it easier. Maybe it'll run longer. Give me an interesting result. But in any case, pausing the video again. Apologize. I'm sure it probably is annoying, but it's just the best way to make it work. probably fair to call that 13 minutes. The Pulsar definitely was not as thrilled with only 4 ounces of fuel in the tank. It was hunting most of the time. It did smooth out a little bit, but maybe that's because there's less time in the engine. I don't know. But 13 minutes, only 13 minutes with roughly 4 ounces of fuel compared to 17 minutes for the Westinghouse. Although with the half load time I got of the Westinghouse, who knows if that 17 minutes might have been more like 30 minutes. Maybe I will run it again. Alright, well now I'm going to do the half load test, and since it was unhappy with the quarter load test with 4 ounces of fuel, I don't know how it's going to go. But it's still interesting. I'll return. Thought I'd mention before I start this test that the Pulsar with the heater and the light, the same heater and the lights. Oh, sorry, had an incoming call. Kind of caught me off guard. As I was saying, with the same two loads, it was actually higher wattage in the Pulsar than the Westinghouse. I imagine that's because the Pulsar runs at a higher voltage. I think it was 121 volts, whereas the Westinghouse sits at 117, 118 with no load. So yeah, just thought I'd mention that. Okay, gonna start the Pulsar up, and we'll see what happens. That result is even more odd than the Westinghouse. The half load actually got more runtime than the quarter load. I don't know what to think of that exactly. But one thing I can say is that the Pulsar and the Westinghouse generator's half load runtime are within margin of error. The Westinghouse was 15 minutes and 40 seconds, and right there the Pulsar was 14 minutes, almost 15 minutes. So that's impressive. It's just that quarter load runtime for both the generators is odd. Even more so for the Pulsar, which, the half load overtook the quarter load, and it wasn't that hard to start the quarter load test, unlike the Westinghouse. So, it is what it is, I guess. I suppose a longer run time with more fuel would probably give more accurate results, but I don't want to be out here all day. This is just a fun little test that I thought I'd do and possibly share. So with any luck, if I can do a little editing, I might pop it up on YouTube, but obviously it's a very unprofessional video. So I'll just calculate the information, add it all up, and be right back. Okay, and I have the numbers. This is definitely not the most scientific and accurate test, but kind of gives an idea of what to look forward to on certain run times. Although that quarter load, that's weird. I don't know. Could be remedied by more fuel use in a test. But in any case, the Pulsar on the quarter load test, it lasted 13 minutes and 12 seconds. And I kind of rounded a little up and down with these numbers, but that gave 7 hours and 40 minutes. The Pulsar, I believe, has a 1.1 gallon tank, so I have to take that into account. The half load test on the Pulsar was essentially 15 minutes, rounded slightly up, and that gave a runtime of 8 hours and 48 minutes on a tank. The Westinghouse, which has a 1.3 gallon tank, I'm pretty sure, on the quarter load, it lasted 17 minutes, 30 seconds, essentially. And that gave it a 12-hour and 8-minute runtime on a tank of fuel. Half-load test, it lasted 15 minutes and 40 seconds, which that's something strange going on, I don't know. But that would last 10 hours and 45 minutes on a full tank of gas. It's pretty good. Now, since the tanks are different sizes, if you just take, put 1 gallon of fuel in each, the Westinghouse will run for 9 hours and 30 minutes at a quarter load, according to this test, which, take it with a grain of salt, because something's going on. And the Pulsar would run 7 hours. So 9 hours and 30 minutes for the Westinghouse, 7 hours for the Pulsar at a quarter load on a gallon of fuel. For the half-load test, the Westinghouse on a gallon of fuel would run 8 hours and 15 minutes. The Pulsar, 8 hours. That's margin of error. Close enough for me. That's a good result. Yeah, let's see, where was I here? Yeah, really not much more to say. On 1 gallon of fuel, they're very close at a half a load. It's just that quarter load number is odd. But it was still fun. Maybe one of these days I'll run a little bit more fuel through it and see what happens on that quarter load test again. But it was kind of a cool day, although a warm day considering it has been. The ambient temperature is around 60 degrees. I'd say 55 to 60 degrees. Yeah, this was fun. If it actually makes it up to YouTube, I hope it's some useful information for all my ums and hms and all the pausing in the video. Sorry if that was annoying. Just file sizes, they're pretty big. So, having said that, I guess have a great day, evening, wherever you are.